Hello everybody and welcome back to Pravus Gaming, more Plague Inc. Evolved Custom Scenarios. We are back after a couple of weeks hiatus and we have some requests and things to get through, so let's take a look at the ultimate bubble fungus. Where is it? There it is, by our very own GD Mitch. She has yet another ultimate scenario, a sequel to my bubble fungus scenario. Now it's returned. Massive thanks to Mushy and Theoxys. Same person, actually. And scenario also heavily inspired by the ultimate fungus, also thanks to Indigo Phoenix. Alrighty, always cool to see people collaborating in some way. I have no idea what's going on here, except for the praise Pravus. That much I do understand, so we're just going to go ahead and let this all explain itself later as time goes on. Hey, it looks like a fungus made of bubbles. Where'd you even get the art for that? That's really kind of cool. I wonder, if I look it up, am I going to find a bubble fungus? I hope I find a bubble fungus. Alright, here we are with the fungus type that I often mistake for the bioweapon for some reason. We're going to stick with our metabolic jump, genetic mimetaris, hemophile, and pathostasis all seem perfectly fine. Povibri maisumlimer. Once in an eternity, the plant that gave birth to the offspring that is you, the fungus, can't do such a thing twice. An event too rare to happen again, that even if it did, it would most likely fail to reach a human. The plant will likely rot and die. You, the fungus, are all that is left of it. I am the last of my kind. So sad. The harvests. Following the typical formula of the Ultimate series, this scenario has a new, or many new, mechanics. One of these is changing what the fungus can do to people using non-directly lethal consequences and choices. So it's still lethal, it's just not as directly lethal. We call that indirectly, by the way. Alright, let's go ahead and start up in Saudi Arabia. Take a look at our transmissions options. We have fomites, okay, wealthy and urban. Water, good for the sea and humid. And Astroterra. Hardened spores able to resist ionizing radiation at higher altitudes, increases air and land transmission. Fascinating. That seems pretty good for me. Symptoms, we start with cysts, painful lumps. Got it, chance of bursting. That can lead into hypersensitivity, which is good for the reach regions. Also abscesses, which is usually a very hefty amount of infectivity for a very cheap price. Pockets of flesh are painful and act as breeding grounds, increasing infection rates when they burst. Rashes, this might lead to a, this might lead to necrosis, I'm not too sure. Boule. Large, painful blisters fill with serious fluid and rupture when irritated. Imagine the worst zit you've ever seen, and it's kind of like that. Probably more like a boil, really, but, I mean, it's more fun to describe it like a zit. Infected fluid may spread the pathogen. Then we have bolus pemphigoid. Tense boule and, I don't know how you say that, by the way, and itchy blisters form at points of friction and present an erythematous base. Highly infectious in older patients. I have heard of something kind of like this. It's almost like a rash wherever you have, like, movement in your joints. Presumably where, like, you have either skin contact that's not letting it dry and breathe properly, or where it sweats a lot. Something along those lines. And erythema. Increased superficial blood flow manifests multiple lesions to break on the mucous membranes and skin, increasing the infection rates. That's a pretty good amount of severity for only 2 DNA, if that's what I'm going for. As it stands, I think we want to go for things like the rash, probably, and see where that leads. Abilities, we start with yeasts. Small eukaryotic microorganisms, I think that's right, eukaryotic, I think so, breed in large numbers, can infect Homo sapiens, but rarely severe and lethal. That leads into allosteric catalysts. Biosynthetic pathways produce large varieties of terpenes, allowing for organic growth, increases infectivity, and unlocks more transmission options. Hey, that could be pretty helpful for me. And then lastly, we have septicemic infection. So I guess you just go septic. Fungus infects endocrine glands and endocardium. Able to manifest lethal symptoms and lead to many complications, unlocks lethal symptoms. So remember that GD Mitch is the guy who usually writes scenarios with a lot of really long technical terms that I barely can pronounce worth anything? Yeah, that's what's going to happen for the rest of this scenario. Though so far it's actually been kind. I think I've done more or less okay. We did go for Astroterra 2. We could go, Astroterra 1. We could go for level 2. Increased genetic diversity allows spores to resist cosmic rays and deoxygenation. Deoxygenation. Oh, okay. Greatly increases cold country effectiveness, also land and air transmission. Well, that would be pretty helpful once we do get into places like Russia. Still good for us, though, even in Saudi Arabia. That said, I think we'll want to go for... I think I'm just going to go ahead and grab Rash. Let's start with this and see where it goes. Scleroderma. Buildup of collagens and causes hardening of connective tissues and skin. Broken skin can spread the infection, very severe. And Verrucae benign growth in the epithelium. Forms wart-like papules. Is it supposed to be like pustules or something? No, I guess papules. On the palms, soles, and genitalia. Gross. Very gross. Do we want to go for the abscesses? I mean, it's pretty darn infective. Yeah, let's go for the abscesses. For abilities, I'm going to go ahead and unlock the next level of transmissions and see what we get. We have polypores. Increased quantity of pores on fungus allows for large numbers of pores to be released at once. Releases a wave of spores. Okay, so that's your spore burst. Got it. And Xerophile 1, glucans and chitin able to keep the fungus intact, lowering chances of fungal spores withering in desert-like conditions, greatly increasing arid effectiveness. So I'm kind of curious, where's like the bubble references here? Because I was expecting a bit more of this. We got chitin and stuff, and this makes sense if it's another ultimate fungus, but I was expecting something to do with bubbles. Maybe I was wrong. Let's go for the increased arid effectiveness, because that's pretty helpful in Saudi Arabia. Xerophile 2, these spores become hydrophobic, making excisation, I think, less common. Decreases humid effectiveness, but increases arid country effectiveness. Debatable as to how useful that's going to be for me right now. Arid countries, yeah, I want to be as good in an arid country as I can in the beginning, but humid ends up being really important, so we may never end up picking this up. I'm not too sure. I'm going to hold on to the polypores for now, though normally with a fungus, I feel bold enough to try getting a whole bunch of bursts and see if I can get on several continents so we spread super duper fast for the maximum amount of score. If I don't know how many bursts I've got, though, maybe that's not worth it to me. So do I want to go for fomites? No. I want to go for some water transmission, so maybe we can get on a port out of Saudi Arabia. We're spreading a little bit slow for my taste, considering how much infectivity we do have. But we should be hitting critical mass in Saudi Arabia relatively cool. Porgs, relatively soon. My brain saw porgs are not cool, and instead of saying soon, I said cool, because that's how my brain works. I trip on my words all the time. Very irritating. Let's go for the bemphigoid. I said it right the first time. Skin lesions. That's super effective. All right. Pretty hefty amount of severity out of that, but there we go. We also got an exploding combo, which I should have read, and I immediately clicked through expecting it to be a default, like, description, but no, that was a mistake on my point. I'm so sorry. All right. Saudi Arabia hit that critical mass. We're not really getting around on plane as much as I was hoping we would. We may have to go for AstroTerra too, just to get on those planes. Saudi Arabia has now shut down their airports a little early for my tastes, and they've already started working on the cure. That's a little bit bizarre, actually. We hit critical mass in Saudi Arabia really quickly, but didn't actually get out into other countries. So that's weird. We kind of need to have some other transmission vector to actually get around. Otherwise, we're really shooting ourselves in the foot. Dry winds? Okay, that helps a lot, actually. So I think I will save it for the 18 points, the extra air transmission, which we do have now. And we have enough severity that I should be getting a good amount of DNA out of all these bubbles. So we got Veruca, or whatever that is. This one right here. Was it Veruca? Wait, isn't it? It's Veruca, isn't it? Because Veruca salt from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. And the whole point is that Veruca's a wart, right? I'm pretty sure. That sounds right. It's Veruca now. Buboes! Infected lymph nodes become swollen and inflamed. Bursting can aerosolize contents and infect others. Helpful, maybe not important to this exact second. So what else do we have in the abilities? Fungal dimorphism. Budding of multiple yeasts creates a multicellular fungi. Fission can reverse morphogenesis of fungi, unlocking other transmission options. All right. And symbionts. Fungus establishes and interacts with multiple organisms, balancing the ecosystems, decreases severity significantly, and more effective in moist areas. Thing is, I want that severity just for the sheer amount of gas that we can gain out of it. Let's go over the fungal dimorphism. That leads to hyphae. Cells become filamentous. Filament? Like filament us? Okay. Tubular and elongated, forming fungal structures that contain multiple eukaryotes and grow at the tips, unlocks abilities, and mycogenesis. Intron and exon transcription accelerated, greatly increasing genetic mutations and progress in the fungus. Unlocks mushrooms. All right, we'll grab that. That leads to toadstools. Fungal molds and spores act as seeds and cause mushrooms to spread, or sprout, I think is what was meant, out of soil and organic compounds. Modifiable and infectious. And then we have fungal progeria. Nutrient strip from host organism greatly advances the fungal growth and nymphopathy. Highly invasive and unlocks more abilities. All right, let's pick up this. I don't see new abilities. Maybe they come after you get the septic infection. That's the lethality. We do have Bubbles 1. Hey, Bubbles! Fungus releases a thin, soapy film substance with an iridescent surface around itself and releases spores into it, increasing the land transmission. It's pretty helpful. Mushrooms. Able to modify spores that are released. Able to infect cold or hot, humid or arid. Unlocks modification traits. Only evolve one trait for both sides. That's interesting. Okay, it's a little expensive, but because it's a kind of unique idea, I really want to get that. So we can get a single type, either cold or hot, either humid or arid. You might actually be able to get both, but the point is to get one. So cold regions would be quite nice, eventually. Maybe humid? I think we can hold off on that at the moment because I'm assuming it makes us weaker in something else. But eventually that could make a big difference. What I think we really want is land transmission through something like Bubbles. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and pick that up. Just because fungus is one of those disease types that has a hard time spreading on its own. It's one of the reasons the fungal bursts is so important. Bubbles 2. Gases are released, then compressed until they reach a certain pressure to keep it from collapsing. Increases land transmission and urban and wealthy effectiveness. Okay. Whoa, why did we get into Greenland? Did we have a spore burst I wasn't aware of? Let's pick up Bubbles 2. Okay, got around pretty nicely there. Then there's Bubbles 3. Fungus releases a wax-like substance in the bubble, which acts as a shield against bacteria, increasing land transmission and wealthy and urban country effectiveness again. All of those are useful to me, so I think this is worth picking up. All right, well, that may be all we can really afford to do in terms of the transmissions, at least for a little bit. Maybe we get cold spores later if we find ourselves desperate, but so far we seem to be spreading okay. We probably should be focusing more on the symptoms so we can set up for lethality when that time comes. Do we want scleroderma? Do we want to go for arrhythmia? Do we want to go for hypersensitivity? Let's go for hypersensitivity for the rich regions. Then we have urticaria. Numerous wheals erupt on the skin and are extremely pruritic. Increases effectiveness, especially in the arid and rural regions, both of which are quite good. We'll pick that up too. All right, now I think we need to start saving up for infectivity. But we haven't actually gotten into North and South America, and that's a huge issue for me. I'm very concerned about that because at this point we have a pretty good amount of infectivity, but we really have not gotten around on like any planes or anything at all, and that scares me. Just really, really terrible. Really, really terrible. We may have to go for some water transmission. That leads to fungicide resistance. Pyrophosphate constructs hardened lipid covering of the fungus, creating resistance to pathotoxins, greatly increasing regions of air, sea, and land. Okay, we need all of those. I really need to get on some planes. Get me to freaking North America. At this point, we're really having trouble. Okay, I see that I got on my first ever boat, and now we are technically in Central America. I'm very concerned that we're not going to be able to get into all of the islands, though. We may have to go for a reduce in severity, and I'm going to go for symbionts. That leads to fungal capsid. Lipids cover aggregated vessels, greatly advancing the pathological switch in the fungus while establishment of advanced ecosystem accelerates. I'm guessing this is what starts taking you down a non-direct method of killing people. Let's try it. So that's going to lead to Neolithic mycobiota. Nuclear division of cells accelerates hyphal fusion with organelles, making fungus toriate. Large portions of land for extensive periods of time unlocks the blight. Ooh, blight. That sounds fun. Mimesis. I think it's mimesis. Hardened noxious signal receiving cells form on fungal tendrils. Fungus can camouflage with environment, increasing chance of infection in the rural areas. And then we have fungal bioluminescence. Enzyme catalyst oxidizes luciferin. I think it's luciferin. Glowing a faint light. Gosh dang it. Attracts nearby organisms and makes them carry spores over large distances, increasing the land transmission further. Yeah, I'm telling you guys, sometimes I have a hard time actually keeping track of what is being said. Tsunami hits Egypt. Fun. We did get into the USA, so that's good. They're working on that cure pretty aggressively, though. Fibromytosis. Lowering infection rates. Why would I want to do that? It's a little lethal, but that's about it. That's all it's going for it. I'm a little concerned that they're working on that cure too aggressively and we were not able to get around. Let's go for highly invasive, extreme mycosis, lethal, hard to cure. All right, corpse transmission could be helpful. Aflatoxin, acute hepatic necrosis is highly fatal and severe, unlocking more symptoms. Very severe, though. Let's go for toadstools. Then we have psychedelia, unlocks narcotics. Yes. Mycelium, immune responses and infectivity. Well, we're already really maxed out on infectivity. That's not the issue. Let's go for narcotics. I'm looking for anything that slows down the cure here. Hard to cure, but decreases the land, sea, and air trade significantly. Psychedelic narcotics, increasing transmission. Mycelial moralysis, increasing cure speed, but also increasing the land, sea, and air transmission. Blight, severe plant disease able to cause pathogenic reaction, leading to chlorosis, death of chloroplast, and plant tissues. Chance to change countries into poor countries? Really? Well, that's fascinating. Huh. I'm really not sure what to do at this point. I'm very concerned that they're going to cure me too aggressively. There's not a whole lot that I can do at the moment. We did not spread nearly as aggressively as I kind of needed to. We're only just now getting into places like Brazil, but islands are really cutting themselves off. Like, we haven't even gotten into Australia or Japan yet, or the Philippines or Madagascar, which means I really need these spore bursts. But it says it releases a wave of spores, so how many countries does that get me, really? I think we need to be aggressive in lethality, so we're going to go for aflatoxin. We're going to go for septic infection, systemic lupus, erythematis. Scant serum levels disrupt phagocytic acidic activity, leading to impaired apoptosis. Severe and systemic autoimmune disorder may occur, unlocking more symptoms. All right. Then we have mycotoxic potency, toxic spores, okay, and cardiovascular infarction. I think it's supposed to be infection. Highly fatal. All right, all that seems good. I'm going to really have to count on these spore waves doing something good for me. Otherwise, it's going to be a repeat. Foaming. We got something new. Where's that? Here? Foaming. Inability to swallow causes salivary glands to produce too much saliva, leading to excessive drooling and bubbling, increasing that infectivity. Gastric ulceration can be lethal. Bone dysplasia, hard to cure. Thank you. Malignant hypertension. Lethal without intensive care and more effective in the wealthy countries. And cyanosis. Poor and inadequate blood oxygenation and circulation gives bluish appearance to the extremities. That sounds like something my wife has. My wife has, like, the worst circulation I've ever known. Like, she can be perfectly fine in her core temperature, but her fingers and her toes are, like, freaking cold as heck. It's kind of scary, actually. It makes me worry for her. Yeah, we're missing a lot of important countries here. I'm very concerned. Let's go for malignant hypertension. I think we may have to go for the burst. So let's go for polypores. That leads to zoosporosis. Spores released in extremely large quantities. All right. Pores, spores, symptom combo. My God. That is hilariously creative. Severe fungal infections combined with polyporal mushrooms has caused infected pores to occasionally pour spores. What is this, frickin' Dr. Seuss? Infects a random country and increases the land, air, and sea transmission and infectivity. Wow, that was pretty good. Yeah, that definitely helps. That gets us around a little bit. They're working on that cure aggressively, but we're getting somewhere. So I guess we could go for this. What am I missing? Caribbean, Iceland, Spain, and Australia. So one more of these will do the job. Got him. Okay, we are now in every country, so now it's a matter of infecting and killing as fast as we can. Blight, I don't think is necessarily going to do it for us right now. I don't actually need to modify my spores. Fomites, not necessarily important. All that matters is lethality. So gastric ulceration leads to gastric acidosis. Yeasts and fungal spores digest mucus lining of the stomach, leading to digestion of the stomach lining, which causes severe shock and stupor. Extremely lethal. Pick it up. Hepatopathic ascites. Severe cirrhosis and fluid buildup in the abdominal cavities due to enlargement, I think, of the liver leads to inadequate renal perfusion and congestive heart failure, a little bit of lethality. Angina, constriction of heart valves leads to intense heart and thorax compression and pain. Dyspnea is occasionally fatal. Not that helpful, so we're going to ignore that one. I need things that slow down the cure. I mean, we're definitely killing fast, and that's certainly going to help, all right? Narcotic addiction apparently is causing some issues. We are destroying cure progress, so this is good. Kazakhstan has already fallen. So we shouldn't have many issues because we have necrosis in Australia. So this should be okay. I'm going to go for the cyanosis. That leads to hypotension. Okay, maybe we need to have some special symptoms. Let's go for an autoimmune toxic spores. Pulmonary. Psychedelic. Religious rituals is not quite what I'm looking for. For anything that slows down the cure. Rapidly progressive macules, facials, and pustules of which are painful and infectious. All right. Fibromytosis, tumors. Nope, not finding what I'm looking for here. I mean, we're killing quickly. That's not the issue. We're going to hit critical mass in Australia. I think we've got it. There are no healthy people left in the world. So, yeah, actually our extremely high infection, our extremely high lethality, plus our really good corpse transmission has made us win. So that's awesome. We got it. Got a little close for comfort there. Onychomycosis. It's like, oh my god, ecosis. I don't know. Severe nail fungus infection, nail growth, blood circulation, high... Okay. Well, there's a lot in this scenario. Lots to unpack. Actually, not bad in, like, any way. I'm trying to think back. Like, is there any real critique? No, this is actually really solid in how it's put together. I think this actually might be one of GD Mitch's best scenarios. Yeah, I have my issues as far as pronunciations, but that's just par for the course. Overall, I'm very pleased with how it's balanced. I like the theme. Again, I'm not entirely sure how the bubble quite fits in a lot of ways. There are some bubble-specific content. There's a lot that's not bubble-specific, so I guess I'm not sure if it's totally following a theme. But in terms of the actual content, how much creativity, how much new symptoms and transmissions and abilities are there, there's a lot of custom content. It's pretty well balanced. I think it's actually really good. It's a really good scenario. It's definitely one of the best. We got 550 days, 85% cure progress, 38,118 points. A little slow for me, but we did have a hard time spreading. Did not get on any of those planes early in Saudi Arabia, and that's part of why we had the issue. Maybe I should not have been quite as conservative with my early spore burst, and we would have had a better score. Don't know. Overall, though, we still got 2 stars. I'm quite pleased with that one. Yeah, absolutely. I will recommend it. Thank you, GD Mitch, for sending that my way. I hope you all enjoyed this video, and if so, I ask that you hit that like button, leave a comment, and subscribe. Hit that notify bell if you want to see my future content. And I, as always, will see you guys next time.